Want to know why I am so excited about whether or not Rian Johnson could be directing future Star Wars films? First of all, I think so much about how amazing, yet bold, yet at the very same time refreshing and brand new The Last Jedi really is. As well as The Rise of Skywalker, but The Last Jedi is something special. Absolutely special, whether you guys like it or not. It's not even, it's barely anything like Empire Strikes Back at all. I mean, it changes up the formula of Star Wars. It it plays with our predictions, and it changes it completely throws the word predictability completely out the window. It it's exactly like the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy, not in the sense that, not in terms of plot points being rehashed, but because of how unpredictable it is. Like when you see Empire Strikes Back, you see that and Lando Calrissian sold Han, Leia, Chewie out to the Imperials, and Han Solo got frozen in carbonite, and then Darth Vader reveals to Luke that he is his father. You guys already know where I'm getting at with this whole unpredictability stuff, because Rian Johnson really loves to take risks. He loves to play it very dangerous. And that's what I really love about him. And I love the fact that on Twitter there's been a trend how a lot of people are giving Rian Johnson appreciation for taking a lot of risks, whether it be killing off Snoke, introducing Rose, introducing new Force abilities, new lightsaber combats that we've never seen in a Star Wars film before, space combat that actually solves many previous space battles in many previous Star Wars films. All of that. To put in a simple analogy, there's J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. Both of them are going to offer you two vacations. One in a city in Europe, and another city in Asia. What J.J. Abrams would offer you is a trip to Paris and a trip somewhere in Tokyo or Seoul, South Korea, or what have you, or whatever the fuck. Those trips seem pretty safe, don't you think? And they are and those are the kinds of trips that would definitely ping on a lot of people's radars. And when you go to those cities, I mean, it would be cool, like really, really cool, but it wouldn't be anything too special when you see him on social media. But in the case of Rian Johnson, when he offers you a trip to Chernobyl, then Fukushima, then I would say, oh, hell fucking yeah, I would, because that is an example of taking risks. Because going into desolated post-apocalyptic wastelands is taking risks, and that's exactly what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. Whereas J.J. Abrams played it perhaps a little bit too safe with The Force Awakens, but did a combination of both risks and played The Rise of Skywalker too safe, and also added some risky moves in The Rise of Skywalker, which I'll get into in my spoiler review of said movie. Sorry, I can't speak well while I'm a bit tired at night. So yeah, if Rian Johnson's really going to introduce new material, new characters, new worlds, new factions, new combats, new realms of whatever it is that Star Wars will introduce us to, then I'm in. I'm absolutely in for it. What we saw, say whatever you want about The Last Jedi, but at least The Last Jedi tried out something different. at least The Last Jedi changed course for better or worse. And I liked what Rian Johnson did. He introduced new characters, new vehicles, new force powers, new aspects of Star Wars, new concepts of Star Wars, solved a lot of combats in Star Wars, everything. And if what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi is what he'll do with his upcoming trilogy, then I am pretty stoked to see what Rian Johnson can do. I'm interested in the realms that he's gonna introduce us to, and I am definitely saying that I'm gonna say for sure that he is gonna get my ticket, every ticket that I could ever purchase from him. Well, technically he doesn't hold the tickets, but you get the drift. A lot of people are saying that Rian Johnson's supposedly a scumbag for taking risks, changing up the character arcs, changing up the force, or what have you. Well, let me put it to you this way: if he really went to the Empire Strikes Back formula, plot points, or whatever the fuck, he would still, regardless, get his feces thrown at him. I am willing to bet that these are the same people that hate Metallica for changing up the formulas to their songs, whether it be changing up the formulas, tones, and productions for their albums, Load, Reload, Say Anger, even though I hate Say Anger, that are completely different from the first 4 albums, and then suddenly whinge about how derivative Death Magnetic is to the first 4 albums. They whinge about how they will sell to the masses for trying out something different, and then they will whinge about Metallica supposedly trying to sell out to the masses for going back to their roots of what made them so popular back in the 80s. Does that sound familiar to you? I'm willing to bet that the people that give them grief for changing up their style and then going back to their roots are the same people that whinge about Star Wars changing up their material, then going back to their roots, the same route that Metallica had. And if they turn their back on their fucking standards by criticizing Dragon Force for never changing up their sound or style, or AC/DC for that matter, then that is the pinnacle of hypocrisy. I know all this may sound irrelevant, but it's not exactly irrelevant if those analogies are perfectly fit together. They go from hating a flick or a band for changing up their material, and then when they go back to their roots, they have their feces thrown at them. And if they utilize both old and new material and mix them together, they still are the most controversial thing in human existence. And when they become the most gray area thing to ever be produced, they still are hated to no end. And it's honestly getting a bit tiresome. You know, it's kind of getting tedious. You having to deal and hear the same knee-jerk reaction time and time and time again. A band or movie franchise is hated whenever they don't change up their material, or supposedly not consistent with their material, and then suddenly when they do change up their material or try out something new, they are still hated to no end because of how supposedly inconsistent they are. Good fucking God, make up your minds. Also, even if The Last Jedi was a failure, which it absolutely wasn't, why should one failure be a reflection off Rian Johnson's future? Look at Craig Mazin. He made a lot of mediocre comedy films, and then guess what? the 5 miniseries of HBO Chernobyl, the best TV series I have ever watched in my entire life. Craig Mazin went from making mediocre television shows, then said, "Fuck you, here's Chernobyl." So even if The Last Jedi was a flop for Rian Johnson, what makes you think that his future installments or productions or future movies that he's gonna direct be a reflection off The Last Jedi? It doesn't make any sense. It's absurd logic. But hey, then again, what do I expect from Star Wars fans or elitists nowadays? So, anyways, I'm getting long-winded yet again. I'm getting on fire with these Star Wars videos again. Every time I hope I'm done with Star Wars, there's always another thing that pops into my mind. Hopefully, I'll chill out over time. But hey, I'm just gonna keep making these videos until I get burned out.